Hello and welcome to another week of the Abusecartoons live stream. So this week we're running a bit late. and this is kind of an odd, just trying to do this on Saturday morning, so this is kind of an odd timing, so I guess Friday night in North America. But yeah, we had to fit it in this week. Very busy. And another, again, apologies behind me. No scenery because the sun is just too darn hot. I can't work in here with the air conditioning not being able to fight that. So you get a little gauzy sheer fabric behind me instead of the city background. So sorry for that. So this week is yeah, just kind of a running late, but kind of trying to return to the regular form. And there will be a convenience store segment at some point. I grabbed something to kind of fill that in, so hopefully that will be fun. And I guess we should just get to it. Yeah, it's been a hectic week with no break in the weather, no break in my schedule, so this is the best I could do as far as getting some drawing time in. And I hope, let's try to, I think we're okay. I hope that I can find a schedule and stick to it, because I know as far as just finding this and even wanting to watch it live without a regular schedule, there's no way. I mean, that notification that comes, you know, right before things go live isn't going to give anybody enough, you know, forewarning to be near a computer or even be in a situation where they want to watch a live stream. So I will continue to work on that. And yeah, it's a little hard. The summer is a little harder to control schedule-wise, but I will nevertheless try to do that, and then try to keep you informed. I still need to get a good way to post the streaming and YouTube and everything on the website itself, because right now the website is just the cartoon. So that will all happen one of these days. Wow. Yeah, I guess the pressure sensitivity is working. Just my my sensitivity is off a bit. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. All right. So topic-wise, I guess I put in the Twitter update. Topic-wise, I wanted to talk about a bit about success and what that looks like and what it feels like for people. And when do you know? How do you know? You know, how do you quantify it? How do you, you know, measure that? How do you get satisfaction from your accomplishments? And the short answer is you don't. It's just not going to happen. And that's a huge thing that drives people, because no matter what they achieve, they, you know, if they're not getting the validation from their peers in the field, you know, in the industry, or their audience, or their family, you know, there's all kinds of strange things that motivates people, and you know, people do things for odd reasons. So whatever you choose to measure your success by is probably going to be a wrong choice, and probably going to make your life a lot more difficult, and your success is a lot less sweet, because you are looking at it in a little bit incorrectly. And I think that's true with a lot of things in life. I keep going back to that, but you know, you need to kind of have your head on straight and not be, you know, living for revenge, or living to I'll show them all kind of mentality, because I mean, it'll help you get things done, but you know, ultimately you're going to never be satisfied, and that might make you crazy, you know, especially later in life. I think that's when people really feel it, and that's when, you know, things start to really show. It starts to really show that, you know, how badly some people's motivations were. So keep that in mind, you know, as you're kind of progressing in your career, with your work. Enjoy the little victories or the little satisfactions, and realize that it's not going to feel, it's not going to look how you thought it would. Like this image you have of your success, or this image you have of, you know, the things that will be satisfying in your life, they're not going to feel that way. They're not going to look or feel the way that you are expecting. And that can be, you know, frustrating and sometimes devastating for people to, you know, that will really have to struggle with the idea of what's going on here. Wow, I'm okay. Stop doing this. Photoshop, sorry. Wow. Okay, well, let's let Photoshop figure out what I was doing, and but I'll continue. So, you know, it's not going to look and feel the way that you expect, and that may haunt you, and it's probably going to push you, you know, further to you know, achieve more or make it look the way you want it to look. And I think that's pretty unhealthy, and it's definitely going to mean you're not going to be doing good work because of that. You have to kind of get your motivations straight and enjoy the small achievements. And I guess at some point in your life, you may be able to look back and, you know, looking at more things as a whole, saying that, you know, saying that, okay, and I guess, you know, when you're really close to it, when you're really in it, you can't really appreciate what you've done or where you got to. And so I think that's an important thing to keep in mind during the trip, to just do the work and love the work and be passionate about the work and make the kind of things that you want to make and do the kind of things you want to do and hopefully get paid for it. And that will ultimately be the most rewarding life for you. And if you focus too much, you know, because a lot of, you know, film and animation, and I think even, you know, comics and things, they have all their little awards and things. And if you're not making the kind of, you know, if your timing is wrong, if you're just not the kind of person making the kind of work that people are approving of, or you're even the correct race or gender, you know, you may not get recognized. You know, because if you think about, you know, previously, when you look at the American comic industry, it's going to be all a majority, you know, white men that received awards starting in the, you know, beginning of the industry, the, you know, 50s, whatever you want to say the kind of beginning of modern comics is. And, you know, now that's kind of self-correcting, but, you know, I think a little bit overly so. But, you know, if your timing is wrong, if you're the wrong color and the wrong gender at the wrong time, you may get passed over, you may get ignored. And, you know, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's always that, you know, kind of what's going on in the public consciousness and stuff, especially for popular culture. It's just those things that resonate. And so you have to be aware of that, and not, you know, the just because you're not getting recognized, that doesn't mean that good work isn't being recognized, even if it's not your kind of work or whatever. And to not be, you know, bitter about that, and also realize, you know, it's just that the timing was wrong, and you weren't supposed to, you know, if you would have been doing this at a different time, the reaction may have been different. And, you know, don't obsess over that, and also don't, you know, try to pander to that, try to become what you think you need to become for recognition. You know, you see people, you know, talking online about how obsolete or unneeded their voice is, you know, in the current popular meta, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But I don't think that's ever true of anybody. It's just that, you know, people aren't listening, and but that doesn't mean that you're obsolete, or you shouldn't be making work, or what you have to say is not important. And it's always been like that. And yeah, so now we're just in a time of kind of self-correction, where I think a lot of industries are trying to, make up for their past sins and their past, kind of exploitation and overlooking, the talent that was around them. So, yeah, that's a difficult thing to kind of come to terms with, once you realize, I guess nobody wants to read my book, and it may not mean that it's not any good. It may just mean you're not striking a chord. You're not, you're not there where you're not where you needed to be as far as kind of your point of view or your storytelling or your setting or whatever. Those things can be tricky, but so you have to find other ways besides commercial success, meaning I guess kind of financial success, industry or peer success, meaning awards, from peers and groups of people that do similar work as you. And then the last one that you should 100% completely definitely avoid is family validation, family approval, family praise, family celebrating you. No one's going to appreciate what you're doing. No one's going to appreciate where you're from creatively, unless you were the rare person that grows up in a creative family, where creative or academic family, where people kind of appreciate those more ephemeral qualities of things, and can notice and have some sort of way to interpret or realize what you've achieved in your career and things. Otherwise don't even bother, and it's just going to be an endless bunch of dissatisfaction and over explaining what you're doing. Yeah, I've had the joy of explaining to like old like meeting old childhood friends and having dinner with their family or whatever, and explaining what I've done, and the reaction is, oh, you'll make it, don't worry, keep trying. So I don't know what they think I'm trying to do, but I'm not trying to do what they think I'm trying to do, apparently. And it's so depressing when you are kind of confronted with that kind of reaction, because it feels like you haven't done anything with your life, and you're so useless. So I don't think a lot of creative people have rewarding high school reunions. Yeah, it's not like you're gonna be able to explain yourself or your career to a lot of people. And I mean, I guess you can let that ugly feeling or that frustration motivate you, but I would think that's really negative. Ultimately, that's going to have a really negative influence on you, because proving something to someone, I think, is the worst motivation for doing anything, and it's never going to be enough. No one is ever going to be as impressed with you as you need them to be, or you're never going to financially be more well off than the people around you that you really feel. I mean, it's just too easy to make money in bad ways, and too difficult to make money doing good things, or at least interesting things. So that kind of idea is just pointless, and should be avoided. I think it's very important to keep your head on straight in those sort of situations. So I just think it's a very personal thing, and you have to figure out what that is for yourself, and then just be happy with it. Just like any basic life decision, whether or not to get married to your partner, whether or not to have children, whether or not to live in a certain area or have a certain lifestyle, or even work at a certain day job or work for a certain company. You have to be happy with those choices, and you have to accept the limitations, but also the satisfaction of what that's going to bring in your life. So that's I think that's a big part of it, is just figuring out how to be satisfied, and your satisfaction is not going to look like anybody else's satisfaction. So it's not something you can, hold up to them and say, see how happy I am, or see how fulfilling this is. That'll be a funny conversation to have. But I don't think you just can't do that. You just can't waste your time proving yourself. But some people are kind of built like that. Some people, that's their motivation, and yeah, good luck. I mean, if you love being unhappy and savor those little successes where you stick it to them, you really show them who's in charge or who's whatever. If that's the sort of thing that you are, and that's the sort of person you want to be, well, enjoy. Good luck with that. But I think ultimately, for satisfaction and kind of looking back on your life and career, you don't want to do those sorts of things, because you'll make a lot of stupid choices just to stick it to them. Yeah, there was I'll keep them anonymous, but there was a friend or an acquaintance of mine that was working at a big game company, and had just been hired in kind of a editorial kind of starting position, and it came to the point where he was offered, okay, well, we don't need this position anymore, and we'd like to move you into another department. And I guess he had the freedom, because he had good relationships on both sides of the creative and kind of the managerial sides, to say kind of which direction he wanted to move in the company. And I guess how he decided was looking out in the parking lot and seeing all the creatives driving used, Japanese imports, which you don't even call them those anymore. But, economy, fuel efficient, but very used, very old, sun-faded cars. And in the managerial side, it was all BMWs and Porsches. And that's how he made his decision about where he was going with his life. And I think a lot of management people do that, and they regret that for the rest of their life, because that money is never going to give them any creative satisfaction, and all they're going to do is spend the rest of their managerial careers harassing and punishing the people that are doing the creative work. It just happens over and over and over again, because some people are just weak and they need the security of money. That's it. That's how they're built, and they don't feel comfortable, risking things, or not being sure, or, just following their passion. And so they will, punish you, the creative person, if you happen to be unlucky enough to be working with their company, for their entire careers and your entire relationship with them. So it's just a funny, miserable thing. But yeah, those are hard decisions to make. And especially if you are thinking things like, getting married and having kids, you don't want to say, well, I have a really, really unpredictable income. Would you like to buy a house with me? Yeah, it's like those sorts of things are, you have to be practical at a certain point, but I wish people would be honest with themselves and just kind of realize, okay, I gave that up, and so I can't, keep thinking maybe someday. Yeah, it's horrible. But yeah, those are the sort of things to kind of pay attention to. And if you want to be easily satisfied, or kind of easily measure yourself, go into management, go into the executive world, because you can easily measure yourself by how many people are under you and how much your annual salary has changed. There you go. There's hard numbers to give you satisfaction. But, I don't think looking back, especially careers now in the modern world, working for any company, I don't think anyone's going to look back and say, I did some real good. We did some really great things, because it's all garbage, that runs through most of these companies. And you're going to just deal with more abuse and put your name on, sign off on more garbage than anybody needs to deal with. So I don't know where this is going. It's a lot of boxes. I was thinking games or books, but that's not very book-like. So let's move to another side here. But yeah, that's just a thing to be aware of, and learn who you are. Figure things out for yourself. If it's too difficult to have an unpredictable, kind of unstable life, then don't do it, because that's going to make you miserable more than any creative satisfaction would have made you happy. Should we try a little light thing here? What's going on? I don't know. The lighting seems to be weird. I don't have my big soft box on the table here, so lighting's a little strange. Usually I'm blown out from behind so badly, but how's that? Little accent light? I don't know. Maybe less light is better at this point. Yeah, so just don't be afraid to explore your motivations and your feelings about things, and just honestly approach what you want to do, because the only person that ultimately has to be satisfied with that is you. And I think that's what it is about. Yeah, because I think I'm just taking this topic and just mashing it up with a bunch of other things that I've talked about before, but you're just not going to, things aren't going to look and feel how you want them to feel. So that's going to lead you to things like fandoms and quick, or working on Instagram, being an Instagram artist, and just like, having daily things to show people. And basically what that's doing is giving you that feedback that you would want from a real audience. And this is my bias. I just don't think any of this stuff that's going on now is very real or very viable. And at any time, just like, business in China, at any time it's going to be claimed by a corporate entity. And if you are not one of their number one earners, or you're not doing the kind of work that they would like you to do, then they're going to get rid of you. They're just going to chase you off their platform. So yeah, I think this, the way people are seeking audiences, and it's a shortcut. It's a way of shortcutting your career. But at the same time, how do you measure what's valid or not? Because this is making money. There's an advertising model, and, people are selling work and things, and selling merchandise or whatever, and getting patrons, getting patronage from people. So who's to say it's not a valid model? But I just don't think ultimately it's going to last. And I think the end of it is always going to be ugly. Just my little bit of experience with, working online, the end of it is always ugly, and you end up, walking away, pretty much, rolled by the system that you were, serving, whether it was a payment system or a donation system, or some kind of, you're working with a online company or some kind of group, some kind of collective thing or whatever. It just, when it goes bad, it just goes bad. And you get, you lose a lot of money, you get, hurt, and you just dumped, and you start at zero. And a lot of the internet is like that. And so I don't think, especially these fragile younger people that are doing this, I think they're going to get hit really hard with, how the internet works and how the internet makes decisions. And it doesn't care at all about, your security or your comfort when it's time to be done, with a certain way to make money, or a certain system is not viable anymore. Especially in this digital age, companies just delete it. It's just, we will be ending this program. We will be ending this. We're going to change the split, the ad revenue split. We're going to be doing, they just can do whatever they want, and then you suffer the consequences. I think a lot of, YouTubers have suffered that, the ridiculous choices, that whatever the motivation is, that's completely unclear, and who even knows, viably what they're doing. at YouTube, trying to put Chanel ads on everybody's, makeup videos. I mean, who knows what their motivation is, but it's a very strange thing, and you have no rights. You have no, you have nothing to say about what this is. You're basically just, crawling around under a table waiting for food to fall off. That's, kind of your relationship with most of these companies. So there's a rant about that, but at the same time, it's not to say that's not valid, because that's all there is, or that's what, a lot of people are doing to, for their livelihood. So, who am I to say that that's not valid? That, that's not the way business is done now. And, that's always a problem, or always, something to be considered, when you're working, kind of for yourself, or you're trying to, fund projects and things, is, kind of where that money is coming from, and how reliable and how long-term those sources are. And so, I don't know. So without going too far off track, I think, even though I don't feel that it's very satisfied, or that it's all that valid of a way to run your career, through social media and asking for donations and stuff, it seems to be working until these companies change their minds, because they're not in it for the greater good. They're just in it to make money. So, you're gonna feel that at some point, and hopefully you've done well enough that they'll continue to support you. And if you haven't, they're just going to cut you off and get rid of you. And, and then that goes into the, controlling what you say and the content of your work and things. As soon as a company is starting to make those decisions, or they feel that you are a danger to their bottom line, they're getting rid of you. I mean, that's the same, that's what's happening recently with all the, digging through people's Twitter and, firing them for things that they said. These companies are, fearing that there's some financial danger there, so they'd rather not deal with it. And unfortunately, in things like film and writers and actors and things, there's a bunch of people standing in the line. There's a bunch of people waiting in line behind that person. So if you get rid of them, there are other choices. So I'm way off track, but maybe that's it. Maybe that's fine. And you're going to find, and that's maybe why people are doing this, because they're finding quicker satisfaction. They're finding ways to, connect with people and be happy about their work that you couldn't have before, that, was just impossible unless you had people write you postcards or whatever. Wow, I'm really dating myself now. But, I think that's a interesting thing about the world now, is the way that you can kind of interact with, your audience. And there's a lot of good parts about it, but there's also, I think, a lot of dangerous ways that people are kind of, pushing themselves and kind of, pushing their career to keep up, or just, just the way people interact online and stuff. I don't think a lot of people expect that. I think, basically I'm not interacting with anybody online, and because I don't think that would be very satisfying. Very satisfying situation, because it's, especially the model that, live streaming and streaming videos and things. Like, I think, Patreon is valid because it's a donation and it's a show of support directly to a creator, directly to somebody who you enjoy or whose work you enjoy. But I think this model, this entertainment model, this hangout model, where you have people in a room basically using like a cam girl, what women have used to, put sexual content online, using the exact same mechanism of do something for me and I'll throw pennies at you. Kind of, that's really weird and unhealthy. And you just get a room full of people throwing money at somebody to see what you can make them do. And, I don't know. That's a very odd, interaction. And I think for a lot of people, that's, very unsatisfying. But it does give you, this immediate contact. It's just that I think it can go real unhealthy and real strange really fast. But people seem to enjoy it. And if you can get millions of people to do that, then who am I to judge it? But yeah, so your success is being a streaming cam girl. I mean, I'm saying that in kind of a pejorative, not a gender way, but just that old way of making money on the internet. If you're happy with that and that's fulfilling, well then, there you go. But it's an odd interaction, and I think it shows its ugly side very easily, very quickly, and you can just see by how people very quickly can. People very quickly can, go that direction of just serving an audience. Well, it looks like I'm not going to get through any of this. Oh my God. All right, so I'm not sure what to do. I'm going to have phone calls and things coming in, and I haven't kind of resolved anything. I'm not really in the middle of anything. So, yeah, I guess I'm just going to put a big hole in the middle of this. Yeah, okay. I'm going to be right back, and hopefully this isn't going to be too long and put a big gap in the middle of this. But I will be right back, hopefully to finish things up, give you a little convenience store segment, and be done. But hang in there, and I will talk to you soon. Sorry about that. My microphone was muted. Okay. Apologies. Yeah, so that's why I'm doing this streaming at such a weird time, is because it's just been constant phone calls all this week. So my apologies for that, and hopefully we can get things finished up, and hopefully I can cut out that big chunk of "Be Right Back" in the middle of this. I think it was silent too. There wasn't even any music, so yeah, apologies for that again. But let's move forward here. Yeah, I think some of this isn't working. All right. But yeah, I was in the middle of, oh yeah, just complaining about, yeah. So be aware, and it's not something that it may be easy for you to do because you were, if you were younger and part of this digital generation, it's how you get your kicks. But be aware that these new forms of, validation and interaction and things are not under your control, and they're not necessarily a healthy or even valid way to run your career. I mean, all this stuff helps. I mean, anything you can do to kind of get your stuff out there and get seen and get known. People get signed for putting, their singing on YouTube or all those sorts of things. But also realize that real industries and real companies are looking at you as a, amateur, as a small timer. They're going to take advantage of you and the prices that you're going to get and the things you're going to be offered, unless you just happen to have tapped into something and be one of those people that has a huge following. Then you may be able to get a little bit more of a fair shake with a large company, because they're just seeing crazy dollar signs. So that's always a possibility, but I think it's good to be aware that you are not going to be taken all that seriously, if you're not working within those kind of confines of the industries. But yeah, just be aware. Just be aware, and don't be too heartbroken or whatever when a platform just disappears on you, or a way that you had to monetize yourself. I mean, Patreon or YouTube could just completely change their policy overnight, and your income could go to zero instantly. And just be aware of that, because I don't think a lot of people that are in this now and getting a following and being able to live on their work don't realize that that sort of thing can happen, and that may be pretty devastating for a lot of people. So, oh boy, I'm drawing myself into a corner here. Oh, so yeah, I don't know. Oh, but yeah, so be happy with your little successes, because if you get addicted to your big successes, yeah, it's going to push you pretty hard. And could cost you your friendships, your marriage, your family, whatever, in your, driven single-mindedness. And, I think Americans seem to worship that kind of person, that incredibly driven, very single-minded, somebody that's got a pretty serious psychological problem that's pushing them to produce and conquer certain industries, or kind of improve or follow whatever vision they have, or just try to, in that weird way that Amazon and some of these companies are doing, just kind of take over things in this very weird behind the scenes kind of way, that suddenly you realize that 50% of what you do online is running on Amazon back end. It's that's crazy. But yeah, so yeah, just be aware of that and find your satisfaction where you can, because it's hard to understand. So for an example that I think I've given before, when this cartoon was syndicated, I mean, my idea of being a syndicated cartoonist was totally different. It's like, that means you can live off of your cartoons? What? That's insane. That's crazy. And unfortunately, the internet had existed and webcomics and things had existed. So syndicators also moved into that. And just as I was saying, when they find you in these ways, when they find a webcomic, they're not going to put it in a newspaper, they're not going to put it in a magazine. So you are on a different tier. You're a different kind of syndicated cartoonist. And so my initial idea of like, wow, I've really achieved something here. It doesn't mean what it used to mean. And that was a little bit hard for me to kind of, come to terms with. It's like, oh, I guess I'm not, I didn't accomplish anything. I'm just, getting fed into this new system, which I don't mind at all. That's fine if, because the syndicator has done a great job of finding an online audience for me that I don't think I would have found myself, because they have such a great system and a back end and a way to share cartoons and support cartoons, the way to kind of subscribe to their service and then have all of your favorite cartoons delivered to you. So I definitely, I think that's a wonderful thing, but at the same time, it's not what my original idea was. And I think, I've had friends have the same sort of reaction. They're like, wow, let me, can you hook me up and let me talk to your syndicator and see if they can, they would be interested in my work. And yeah, they would, but they're not going to make you rich. So if that's your goal, then, that's not going to happen. That's not, you've got this kind of old system, this old idea of what being syndicated means. And the new version is much less profitable, much less dramatic. But I can say honestly, overnight I became a hundredaire. I totally blew that. I became a hundredaire once I was a syndicated cartoonist. Yeah. So it's that sort of thing over and over again. And I don't think it takes time. Only time can prove what are valid models of, business. And if these, companies develop things and kind of establish these platforms, and they do it on shaky ground, and they do it, for quick bucks, or, they just have bad intentions, or they're managed poorly, you are the one that's going to suffer from that, because they'll be fine. They know how to watch their backs. So you're the one that's going to lose something, and they're just going to get sold and repurposed, as something else. Okay, nighttime cheese. I guess is what this is going to be about. Okay. I can't find my keys. There we go. But yeah. So, have I already lost my focus here? Yeah, it's a funny thing. So, the kinds of successes that I think a lot of people have seen, and this is, this kind of goes back to my my syndication story. The kind of your parents' generation or your grandparents' generation version of success it pretty much doesn't exist anymore. I mean, very few of those situations exist. So you're not going to be able to measure yourself or be satisfied by their standards or these standards that you kind of grew up with, because things have just changed too much. And you have to come to terms with that and kind of work within that system. And that's all there is. Yeah, because, things used to be on paper and contracts used to be on paper. I don't think I've signed a paper contract in a long time. It's a lot of digital agreements now. And, what's happening here? So it's a ever-changing world, and I think not losing yourself in that is very important. And the same way I'm criticizing these Instagram artists and people that are trying to make their you know, create a following or find an audience or find a peer group, you know, within people doing that sort of thing. That's fine if they are satisfied with that, and if they are going to measure their success by views and follows and likes, then great. You know, hopefully they just stay out of your way while you're trying to actually do some valid work and not just pandering to a fan base. I don't know. I don't even know what that would be, but yeah. But it's all changing, and so you just have to find, you know, who you are and kind of what you are inside of that. And hopefully somewhere around there, you know, it'll make you happy. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Oh, okay. More pieces are down here. Yeah, so I guess it's enough. And I think I've already, you know, gone on about that before. Oh, I want to draw that. So, oh yeah. So I already showed you I'm referring to the convenience store segment. I've already showed you the sandwich with the crust cut off. I've got to show you this sandwich sometime. The actual sandwich in the little package. I got two pieces here. So this thing that I'm moving about, it's a sandwich. That, you know, I guess you could actually like hang it up. I don't think there is a hole in it, but you get it out of the little freezer or the little fridge, and you know, kind of peel it open, and there's a sandwich cut diagonally inside there, so that's why it's triangular. And yeah, so it's an actual sandwich in there, and usually they're okay. There's a lot of egg salad in them, but yeah, it's a quick way to have, you know, an approximation of a sandwich. A sandwich you would put in a brown paper bag and take with you to work. All right. Oh yeah, maybe software and hardware might be a fun. Whoa, yeah, that's not what I wanted to do. Software and hardware might be a fun thing to play with. As far as, yeah, box size, because it used to be kind of obvious. I mean, that's the thing you think about, is the thing that runs stuff is the big box. I guess, you know, like a PlayStation or whatever. The big box is the thing that runs stuff, and the little boxes are the stuff that goes into it. And but that's not quite true with a lot of other devices and how small they're making. You know, smartphones and viewers and things are getting pretty tiny. I think this needs to be smaller because it's so thick. Yeah, they're getting pretty tiny. So relatively, I got to get all this stuff. Oh, that's a very wonky looking box. So I like drawing wonky, but that's extreme wonky. Oh boy. Yeah, I gotta at least make that look like it exists in kind of the same world as the rest of this stuff. All right. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to just distort a little bit of this stuff to get it feeling like it's in the same world. Yeah, so I'm sure I'm going to keep coming back to that topic, but I think it's worth talking about. And that was an interesting thing that coming to Japan that I instantly realized is Japan is super brand conscious culture, and I guess, you know, my grandparents' generation is a little bit more like this too, but you know, they're super. So what famous companies have you worked for is all people are interested in when you know, you're creative, or you're, you know, a cartoonist or illustrator or whatever. They want to know what famous things you've worked on, or who you worked for. Not, they, you know, don't care about names of anything, but you know, who have you worked for is the most important thing, because that is such a status here. And people, you know, the reason that they, you know, endure the abuse at Sony is so they can have that business card with the Sony logo on it and all that good stuff. And I guess, you know, Americans are a little bit like that, but I was just not prepared for the extent to which Japanese are just like, if it's not famous, it doesn't matter. Is it the third largest manufacturer? You know, it's there was a lot of that, and that was hard. Mm. Oh, yeah. So that's it. So enough on that. I don't want to kind of ramble on, and I don't get too far off topic either, but you're going to have to gauge your own success. And I can't believe my phone is ringing again. Okay, just a second. And again, okay, so now you know I have proof that this has been a hectic week of constant phone calls, and I'm not going to be able to have a good streaming schedule. Yeah, I mean, because I just can't, because of the time difference and things, between North America and Japan, I can't, just turn my phone off when I'm streaming, because there's small windows of time, to be able to get in touch with people. And that is difficult. So apologies again for disappearing on you. I'm going to have to download and edit that and put it back up, because I don't think I can cut pieces out. It doesn't work quite that way with on YouTube, or I guess I can do 2 highlights on Skype. I don't know. But I will figure something out, and I will get back on track here. So I just want to do a different kind of an assortment of different kinds of boxes. Let it be lighter blue than that. And maybe orange. Yeah, some kind of like safety orange looking. See what that looks like. Yeah, that'll work. And what else? Like a very, light, weird green. All right. Okay. And now some shadows and things. I guess I should do some things on the packaging. Whoa, not on that layer, on a different layer. So my typical little bands and things that I so love to put on all my little boxes. Yeah, it's a funny thing trying to come up, or trying to, draw packaging that has the kind of feel that I remember of kind of old packaging having, and that it turns into, there's just a few things that I keep doing that remind me of those types of things. And one of them is this band. Yeah, I guess if I do too much white, it's going to start looking like breakfast cereal. But I'll do a little bit. And maybe some two-tone. Yeah, this is the part where now an audio, podcast version of this doesn't make any sense, when it's just me mumbling to myself and you can't even see what's going on. It doesn't sound very, interesting, I think, to listen to blue, maybe. So I still I'm not convinced that that's such a great idea. But it may still happen. It just depends on what happens with my schedule and everything else. As you can see, I don't have enough time to even stream for an hour without being interrupted. But that's how it is. All right. All right. So before, I guess we'll switch to, so I'm still talking, we'll switch to pop culture talk. So as I think most of the world, the Western world did, I caught up on the Mission Impossible films in preparation for the release of the new one, which maybe I will see tomorrow. I think it's out in Japan pretty early, or pretty comparable to, the North American release. But there we go. Yeah, so So that was interesting. I think it's one of those franchises that it kind of like the Bond franchise, that they haven't quite run into the ground because they just don't do too many of them. They don't do, they're not too numerous. It's like every 3 to 5 years there's another one, so you're not like, ugh. And they, seem to, put together interesting set pieces and stuff. So every one of the, they're a little bit samey when you watch them back to back. Wow, that was interesting. When you watch them back to back, they're a little bit samey as far as the kind of things they're trying to do. But always, they're taking advantage of what's fun about that genre, the kind of spy genre, and the double crosses, and you don't know who your friends are, and being disavowed. Everyone's constantly disavowed. You gotta love that. Disavowed. But it was fun, and it's amazing how long they've been doing it, because the actors have changed a lot. The look of a lot of the main actors. So that's funny. It's been a long time going. And I remember, occasionally watching the TV show in syndication, obviously, as a kid, and that it being enjoyable. But it seemed very quickly that they moved away. They wanted to do the espionage and suspense, or intrigue thing of spies, but they very quickly minimized the mask wearing and things, which in the first movie was they leaned on pretty heavily, and I was still so surprised. That's a Brian De Palma film, the first Mission Impossible. But the Brad Bird movie was good. I'm forgetting the names of everything, but when he gets married, that was really enjoyable. That has one of the most intense openings of any of those movies, because usually they just kind of open with an action kind of set piece thing, and that one just boof, right away, gun to the head, and tell me where it is kind of thing. And so I'm interested to see if they can sustain this. And I think this may be just like they retire Bonds. They're gonna maybe have to retire Tom Cruise after this, because he's getting there. He's getting to the point. I mean, once they start doing a once you have a skin double, not only a body double for your stunts, but a skin double to kind of smooth out your aging skin, I think it's time to just call it quits, to just kind of wrap it up and start to play roles where that's not an unexpected thing. But who knows how that works. I mean, he's such a bankable star that they may reanimate him, and that's too small, and just have his animatronic corpse be making movies in the future. Yeah, because they're kind of running out of those international, the Schwarzeneggers and Stallones and the, people from the 80s that you just put their name on something and you get a decent return on it. Those people are disappearing. So let's thin that out a little bit, and there we go. Get a little laggy. Everyone's sad. So whether they were software or hardware, they knew they were going to be immediately updated is the joke I'm kind of thinking about here. Nice. All right. Oh, that is the same layer. See, that's a funny thing you can enjoy in the audio, is my making ridiculous mistakes like that. Okay, we'll go with these guys. And, oh, I'll write them after the segment. Oh. After the segment. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. I've lost my ability to choose. I think it's just a memory little bump. Okay, so let's color the pillow. And we'll be good to go for our exciting... Oh, gotta quit doing a convenience store segment. Boom. And a nice cheese color. Wait, a little bit darker. Okay. Well, I do appreciate everybody that has gotten past those be right backs. I'm not sure if that means anybody. Let me check. Not sure if anybody's still there. There's one person still hanging in after the... yeah, I guess there's a couple people that just said, why not? How long could he be gone? And hung in there long enough for me to return. It's very appreciated. And let's do... Oh, I guess the glass needs to be white as well to do this. Let's do the water. Water. That's a very funny word, water. It's for North Americans. That's a good word to tell where somebody's from by how they say that word. And it's funny because, you know, over here, people are trying to teach English and trying to use, you know, their regional accent. They're hurting, hurting innocent Japanese with their regional accents. And I'm sure there's a lot of, Japanese people saying "water" right now because of somebody isn't aware of how heavily accented their little regional dialect is. I'm just gonna have to make another layer. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, and try a pink. And oh, come on. There we go. Put some stripes on that pillow. There we go. And maybe a little more in the cheese holes. There we go. Kind of reinforce that a little bit. There we are. Okay. Now some pillow shadows. Something like that might work. Yeah. A little more interesting. Oh. Now I'm going to try to make the cheese holes work. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think we're pretty close. Actually, let me try some white highlighting. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah, I think I need to make this cheese pop a little bit more. So all the cheese holes have a little bit of highlighting. Maybe that, yeah. All right, and a little bit more here. Yeah, I think that works. And what about this? Yeah, that seemed to work lately. I like the making the glass a little bit more glass-like. Some more pillow highlights. And cheese lightning. I'm a cheese lightener. I'm a part-time cheese lightener. Okay. And then there we go. All right. There we go. Oh, yeah, maybe the pillow should not. Maybe I'll make it a green because, yeah, it's exactly the same color as the water. And it's looking a little odd for me. Oops, the layer, it is hidden. That's a little bright. There we go. Okay, and now some little eyes. Yeah, I think the writing on this is going to be brutal. Don't have insane jokes. Insane concepts this time. Wow, I'm getting a weird lag. I hate that when, you know, you're getting a little too, you're moving a little too fast and things start lagging, and then you get into that completely bizarre rhythm where you don't wait long enough and you do something and you undo it, and so then you just beep 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 flipping things around and you can't tell what's what or what's happening. All right. That was a real interesting commentary. Okay, so we have two things about nighttime cheese and products of some sort. So I didn't test this, so I hope everything is going to be okay. I was playing around with the keying and stuff last night, so let's try the convenience store segment. Wow, I guess it's okay. I guess it's okay. Okay, I'm a little bit off center now. Yay, so now I'm in the convenience store again, and I'm still not lit very well. Sorry about that. Yeah, let's try this. Hey, live on cam. Boom. There we go. Yeah, I think it's when I get out of the way of the camera, it picks up weird things. But anyhow, so I'm sorry that everything has been so remedial, and it's continuing to be remedial. But the, you know, convenience stores in Japan, there's a lot of fun, basic stuff. So this week, I bring to you a staple. I mean, these are available, you know, at bookstores and other places, but the most of the time you see them in convenience stores. Convenience stores are the most, you know, common place you see them, and the most kind of, you know, convenient place to pick them up. And so I'm showing you a weekly manga. So this is the weekly manga style, the anthology kind of style in Japan. And look at that. Look at those pages. Can you even get your head around how many pages that is of comics to read per week, per publication? They're probably hundreds. I mean, there's so many weekly books, maybe not hundreds, but there's a lot of weekly books. So the one I'm bringing you today is just the Shonen magazine. Magazine. So magazine is what it's saying. So this is, they were sold out of Shonen Jump, which is probably the most recognizable brand, you know, where originally Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball and a lot of the, you know, Naruto, One Piece, the real classic, you know, kind of when what people know of manga, that's where they appeared originally. So this is a weekly anthology. So the stories are cut into little pieces, and there's a pretty big range of genres in each of these books. There is a kind of an overall kind of stylistic thing or a tone or whatever, because they're trying to all hit different markets. So I think this is competing with Shonen Jump, but it's a little bit older. I think Shonen Jump is more of a, you know, elementary school kids could read that. There's not going to be anything too offensive. There's a little bit more haha sexy jokes in this version. So this may be for a slightly older boy. And I don't recognize any of the series in here, so I don't think a lot of these books in the series have actually left. So this started, this original publication as a magazine started in like 1959. So this is a very old book. It's been published for a long time, and then moved into this format where it was just a collection of manga. And so you get a color cover, and then you get usually a color kind of first page. So whatever they're kind of featuring, or whatever the first series is. Oh, can you even see this? First series, you get a nice full color page, and then immediately you go to, and then of course you get, you know, your table of contents and advertisements, and then immediately you go to this. And yes, you can barely see that. So this is in the truest sense, like when you hear about pulp novels, you know, cheaply printed, this is in the truest sense a pulp publication, because the amount of ink they use is very minimum, and just enough to be able to actually see the artwork. I'm sorry, I keep bumping the microphone. Just enough for you to actually be able to see the artwork, and the paper that it's printed on is just, you know, recycled garbage, just pulp that will just disappear at any time. And if you take a look at the spine, you can even see that they just load the machine with, you know, whatever processed paper with that whatever color. So it's got a lot of different colorations. You'll have like a pink, a green, a blue, a yellow kind of section of these books, and it's all that, you know, very light colored recycled paper. And maybe they have to color it because the paper is a little funky, you know, off-white or whatever. So you get these, you know, divisions of sections of this recycled paper. So they always look like that. They have that recycled paper look because they have the kind of rainbow, the light rainbow effect. And so you'll get a huge, you know, variation of the, so there's, I'm gonna see how many stories there are. Oh, this is the advertising, the table of contents, kind of what's in, oh, there we go. So, wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Aren't you glad I read all those? 17 different stories in 650 pages published weekly. I mean, there is nobody that can output this much content. I mean, you have to admire the manga industry here. I mean, maybe not their work practices, but how much they can actually crank out. This is just insane. And so there's a you know, oh, there's another color page in the middle there to advertise something, or maybe to start the next, start the next story, and to advertise the collection. So you'll first read a story serialized, episodically, you know, kind of in these short little pieces weekly. You'll follow a story this way, but you will just throw this away. Like very often you'll see these sitting in the, you know, restroom or on the seat of the train. People just leave them. Once you finish what you've read, what you want to read, you just leave it behind because it's meant to be recycled. No one is putting this in a plastic bag with a backer board and is going to be collecting this, because they just disintegrate into nothing. So it's meant to kind of, you know, for a week, you just kind of abuse it, read through what you want, and then leave it around for other people to read. And then they get bundled up. So you'll see these like kind of like newspapers. You'll see just big piles of these with string around them, bundled up out by the trash to be recycled. And I'm sure that recycling goes right back into making this exact paper. So, you know, maybe they've been using, you know, the same paper for 30 years, you know, same pulp for, you know, material for 30 years to be recycled. So, yeah, this form that it is now, I think, kind of gained popularity in the 80s, and the Toyama's like Dragon Ball, I think, was the in Shonen Jump was the first kind of, it set the precedent for how everybody started to follow the kind of, you know, little episodic story and kind of high action and a little funny thing. So the combination of humor and action and things. And of course there is this particular, this weekly Shonen magazine is has a little bit more serious, a little bit more, you know, adult, not so playful content in it. So like it is a you know, a little bit older and a little bit more more serious, but there still is the sports manga, the kind of little bit horror manga, science fiction, all put together in one of these books. And when I first got to Japan, these books were only 300 something yen, so $3 for all of this content. Now they're 500 yen, I believe, 5 something. But yeah, it's a crazy amount of writing. But for me, I mean, this is interesting, and it's really fun, you know, to help for your reading ability, because most of them, it's a hit or miss. But there's a lot of furigana, explaining some of the more difficult kanji and stuff. So you can actually, if your Japanese isn't great, you can actually read these and use these to kind of improve your reading speed and look things up and all that stuff. Because even though it's a little bit affected and weird, there is some kind of, you know, normal everyday conversational phrases and things in here. Although, yeah, you don't want to imitate too much of the very stylized or comedic manga, because you're going to be saying some very odd things in Japanese. But yeah, so you know, it really came into kind of this form in the 80s, and there is every kind of genre you can imagine, from, you know, men's magazines, very adult, with like a, you know, bikini girl on the cover, and all the content will be very, you know, crime stories, or very blood and guts, you know, kind of, you know, more adult, like Gogo 13 kind of content. You know, spies and assassins and murderers and boxers and things, you know, a little bit more gritty, to women's shonen manga is boys manga, shoujo manga is girls manga, and so they kind of separate the genre. So more love stories and fantasy and little, you know, social adventures at school and things. In the girls' books, the boys' books are a little bit more, you know, adventure and sports. And then they even divide beyond that to like totally romance books, and then, like I was saying, the more hardcore, you know, men's stories. But they're all originally published like this in this serialized form, so it's a pretty heavy production schedule, you know, to keep up with things like this. And I think there was a story a few years back that the mangaka, the artist for One Piece, was actually hospitalized from, you know, exhaustion and some sort of illness, and for once in the history ever of that book, missed a week of publication in here, and, you know, was very disappointed. It was very shameful, and the magazine was apologizing, and probably the numbers went down that week because people knew One Piece was not going to be in it. So amazing. I mean, that's sounds like the South Park, you know, production schedule. That'd be on you know, so crazy weekly production like that. So you'll first see it in here in this, you know, very hard to read, very light colored, on these light colored pages, and then they'll be collected. Then the stories are collected. Oh, come on! I just saw that page. They'll be collected in volumes of high quality, you know, dust. They'll be paperback, but they'll be dust jackets. Yeah, there it is. So a collection. So a smaller book, maybe like a what is it, B6, B5, yeah, smaller. I forget what the standard kind of manga sizes are, but a smaller collected book that'll be like this with a little wraparound. It'll be paperback with a wraparound dust jacket, and printed on nice bright white high quality paper that you can, you know, save and collect, and they're not going to turn into, you know, yellow browny disintegrating paper. And so that's how some people don't read them weekly, because this is kind of a, you know, thing you're carrying around. It's not so convenient, and you're just kind of throwing it away. But they'll collect the stories like that. But for me, I mean, I'm not a fan of anthologies, because it's so hit or miss, and if you read it cover to cover, it's just disorienting and kind of unpleasant. And do the same people really want to read, kind of a horror comic, a high school romance, not romance, but a high school story, sports story, science fiction, and military. I mean, it's like there are going to be things you're going to skip, and there are going to be things in here that you're not interested. I mean, just looking at the cover, you can see a few characters you may not, and I don't know if I really want to read through that. And so that's the thing I don't like. And I know like 2000 AD and then all of the weekly manga in Japan is anthological. They're all anthologies like this, and I'm not really a fan of that. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the American comic style, the monthly little slender 20 some odd page books that way either, because that is still a kind of a serialization, but you are buying one story, one title, one book. But yeah, so this is interesting, and this is such a unique kind of cultural product, but it's not something that I kind of live off of and survive off of, because I would rather just read the completed story. But then at the same time, when it has to be originally presented like this, then it gets a little bit fragmented. Like I remember reading, like catching up on old Dick Tracy newspaper comics, and they're very a linear story, but because it's so short, the pace of it is very odd. And you have to have little climaxes in your Sunday comics, or a little bit more can happen than just in the week or the daily strips. And yeah, it's an odd kind of not great way to read a story. So with the love of storytelling that Japanese comics has, that this is a little bit of an odd way to do it, but it's still, there's people that have mastered this form, so it doesn't feel very disjointed, and it doesn't feel like while you're reading, while you have these like tiny little arcs or tiny little bumps of action instead of bigger things. But yeah, so this is interesting, and it's definitely worth having a look at these and just trying to appreciate the culture and the love of comics that produces something like this and keeps people reading them. You still see people, with these on trains, and you still see these left everywhere, even though digital manga is becoming more and more of a thing. It's getting more and more common to see people reading on their phones and tablets manga, but they still exist. And for that specific magazine, the last publication that I read they're still at like 1 million circulation, 1 million units, 1 million books circulation, and they have been for like the last 10 years. So it's not decreasing dramatically. I mean, maybe there is some back and forth between, but there are still so many people that want this big thing in their hands. And the nice thing is, you can sweat on this and destroy this and be eating and get it greasy, because you're going to recycle it. So it's not such a precious thing. You're just like, just give me the story, give me the pictures, I just want to read the next thing, and then you pitch it. So it's amazing, and it's heavy. It's a considerable it's like carrying around a phone book. It's a considerable object, and to still keep the price down so low, and for it to exist for so many different genres is amazing. I think this is a Gundam only weekly manga. Maybe it's not weekly though. Is there that many Gundam stories? But there's a big thick Gundam. So there are also monthly. I think more tinier genres that don't have that much content, because this is like a big mishmash of genre. Tinier genres don't have weekly books, but they use this format, but I think they publish them monthly, and they're a little more expensive. But that is an amazingly interesting product of Japan, and the history and just the love of comics culture that developed that is incredible. So if you come to Japan and you're at a convenience store, add one of those to your order and just sit and page through it and just be amazed that much content is produced every week in Japanese manga studios. All right. So that is our little Combini Corner, and it's back. So let me know if you enjoy this, and if this is something you want me to keep doing, and if I can fix the brightness on the camera again, and if you would like this to keep being a thing, and I will try to make it a thing and try to bring more and more interesting and diverse little artifacts from convenience stores for you. All right, now back to the drawing. All right. So, actually, we're done with the drawing. It's back to the writing. So. sorry, I must have, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so you missed all of that. Okay, so yeah, writing, so whether hardware, software or hardware, the first thing that would happen to them was an update. Sorry, a technical mess this week. But I'm glad it actually happened because I thought I was going to be skipping a week. Okay. Whether software or hardware, the first thing that would happen to them was an update. I think I need to make the update feel like something else, a little, not a pun, but, you know, have some other kind of little joke in there to decide what that is. They all knew update, yeah. So they all knew that the first thing that would happen to them is they were going to be getting an update. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out what that is, trying to make that into something once purchased. Yes, so oh, yeah. So the fact that they would be immediately updated made them feel bad in their current state. This keyboard is a mess. The certainty of being updated. The certainty. Okay, so this certainty, the certainty of being updated made them feel bad in their current state. Made them feel uncomfortable. The certainty of being updated made them feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I'm not using update specifically enough, so I'm not talking about updating models. I'm talking about like doing the, you know, little software update. The certainty of a software update of a software update. The certainty of a software update with 2 W's made them feel uncomfortable in their current state. Made them already miss what's another long for am I using that right? To long. The certainty of a software update made them already long for their current state. Yearn for, yeah. Yearn is better. Yeah. Or pine. They already pine for their current state. Yearn. Yeah, something that has some nostalgia in it. Already yearn, I think, is funnier and stronger. The certainty of a software update made them already yearn for their current state. Long for, yeah, long for isn't just not as funny. The certainty of a software update made them already yearn for their current state. Yeah, yearn is funny enough. I'm not sure if I'm using it right, but I'm trying to be funny. Correct and funny are not the same thing. Okay, and he understood the glass of water, but not the bedside cheese. He understood the glass of water, but not the bedside cheese. He understood the glass of water, but not... Oh. I'm not doing good today. All right. Yeah. He understood the glass of water, but not the bedside cheese. Okay, I guess they're on a bed. They're in a bed. Okay. I think that's as good as it's getting, because bedside cheese is exactly what I was going for there. That's about as funny as it gets, because it's just the phrase. He understood the glass of water, but not the bedside cheese. Okay. The certainty of a software update made them already yearn. Again. Come on. Yeah, I got a weird memory thing going on here. Okay. The certainty of a software update made them already yearn for their current state. And he understood the glass of water, but not the bedside cheese. We did it. It happened. We finished. And only 2 phone calls. And 1 technical glitch. So, thank you so much for joining me this week and watching from the archives, or however you prefer to view this. And I think a Friday night is, I don't know. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Saturday morning. Normally, I'm not free Saturday morning, so that's not, this isn't an easy thing to do. So enjoy the rareness, the rarity of this. But thank you for joining me. If you would like to follow this cartoon, Abusecartoons, at Abusecartoons on Twitter, abusecartoons.com for the website with all of the most recent updates plus the huge archive. Go to GoComics/domestic abuse for all of the comics, as well as thousands of other wonderful comics direct to your inbox. It's a wonderful service if you love comics and would like to see some of the best kind of web comics online. And if you would like to support this cartoon, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/abusecartoons. You can receive signed books like this one here in wonderful plastic, and original art like this one here. Sorry for the book on the table. And it would help continue and support this cartoon to grow, to stream more, to be drawn more, to become daily. It would be lovely. So please consider that, and I will see you next week, which may be sooner than you think, because this one is so late. Until then, goodbye.